Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Daily English Fluent Podcast. I am Jake, and today I am very happy to practice English with you. In today's podcast, we are going to talk about a useful travel topic: how to talk about your favorite hotel. Maybe you stayed in a wonderful hotel during a vacation. Maybe you remember a hotel because the room was comfortable, the staff were friendly, or the view was beautiful. Talking about hotels is useful when you travel, meet new people, recommend places, or simply talk about your past experiences. Someone may ask you, "What is your favorite hotel?" This sounds like a simple question, but you may not know how to give a complete answer. Maybe you only say, "My favorite hotel is a hotel in Paris." That answer is correct, but we can make it much more interesting. You can talk about where the hotel is, when you stayed there, what the room was like, what services the hotel offered, and why you enjoyed your stay. With a few simple details, you can create a natural conversation. Let's begin with the basic sentence. My favorite hotel is. You can say, "My favorite hotel is a small hotel near the beach." You can say, "One of my favorite hotels is in Rome." You can also say, "The best hotel I have stayed in was in Spain." If you cannot remember the hotel's name, that is completely fine. You can describe it by saying where it was or what kind of hotel it was. Now, let's talk about location. Location is often very important when we choose a hotel. You can say, "The hotel was in the city center." You can say, "It was close to the beach." You can say, "It was near many restaurants and shops." Maybe the hotel was outside the busy part of the city, so you could say, "It was in a quiet area outside the city center." These simple phrases help the listener imagine where you stayed. For example, one of my favorite hotels was in Barcelona. It was close to the city center, so it was easy to walk to restaurants, cafes, and interesting places. There was also a bus stop near the hotel. I liked the location because I did not need to spend much time traveling around the city. Notice how we first say where the hotel was and then explain why the location was useful. Now let's describe the room. Someone might ask, "What was your room like?" You can answer, "The room was clean and comfortable." You can say, "It was small, but it had everything I needed." Maybe you had a large room, so you can say, "The room was spacious and bright." The word spacious means there was plenty of space. You could also say, "The bed was very comfortable," or "The room had a beautiful view." Let's make a complete example. My room was on the 5th floor. It was clean, bright, and comfortable. There was a large bed, a small desk, and a nice bathroom. The best thing was the balcony, because I could see the sea from my room. In the morning, I sometimes sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee. These details make your description more personal without using difficult English. Hotels also have different facilities. A facility is something provided for guests to use. A hotel might have a swimming pool, gym, restaurant, cafe, spa, parking area, or business center. You could say, "The hotel had a large swimming pool." You can say, "There was a small gym on the 1st floor." Maybe breakfast was included, so you can say, "The hotel offered free breakfast every morning." These are useful sentences when you want to explain what made the hotel special. Now let's talk about hotel staff. The people working at a hotel can make a big difference to your experience. You can say, "The staff were very friendly." You can say, "Everyone was polite and helpful." Maybe you had a problem and someone helped you quickly. You could say, "The receptionist helped me when I had a question about transportation." You might also say, "The staff always greeted us with a smile." Simple details like these explain why you remember the hotel positively. Let's practice a longer answer. My favorite hotel was a small hotel in Portugal. I stayed there during a summer vacation with my family. The hotel was near the beach, and our room had a beautiful ocean view. The room was simple but very clean and comfortable. Breakfast was included, and there was a swimming pool outside. The staff were friendly and always ready to help. I really enjoyed staying there because the whole place felt peaceful and welcoming. Someone may also ask, why was it your favorite hotel? This is your chance to give 2 or 3 reasons. You can say, it was my favorite because the location was perfect. You can say, I loved it because the room was comfortable and the staff were friendly. You can also say, my favorite thing about the hotel was the view. The phrase, my favorite thing about, is very useful when talking about hotels, restaurants, cities, or almost any place. Now, let's practice a short conversation. What is the best hotel you have stayed in? Probably a hotel I stayed in during a trip to Italy. What did you like about it? The room was really comfortable, and the location was excellent. Was breakfast included? Yes, and the breakfast was delicious. What were the staff like? They were very friendly and helpful. Would you stay there again? Definitely. I would love to go back one day. When you talk about your favorite hotel, remember this simple structure. First, say where the hotel was. Then explain when or why you stayed there. Describe the room and location. Add something about the facilities or staff. Finally, explain what made the hotel special for you. You do not need complicated travel vocabulary. A few clear details can turn a short answer into an interesting and natural English conversation. Now let's talk about the experience of arriving at a hotel. When you arrive, you usually go to the reception desk to check in. You can say, we arrived at the hotel around 3 in the afternoon and checked in. Maybe the process was easy, so you can say, check-in was quick and simple. You might also say, the receptionist welcomed us and gave us our room key. These are useful expressions when you want to describe your hotel experience from the beginning. You can also explain your first impression. Your first impression is what you think or feel when you first see a place. You might say, my first impression was very positive. You can say, the lobby was bright, clean, and modern. Maybe the hotel was older but charming. You could say, the hotel was quite old, but it had a warm and traditional feeling. You can also say, as soon as I entered, I felt comfortable. These small details help your listener imagine the hotel. Now, let's talk more about breakfast, because breakfast is often an important part of a hotel stay. You can say, breakfast was included in the price. You might say, there was a breakfast buffet every morning. A buffet is a meal where different foods are available and guests choose what they want. You could say, the buffet had eggs, bread, fruit, cheese, coffee, and juice. If you really enjoyed it, you can simply say, the breakfast was one of my favorite things about the hotel. Let's make an example. Every morning, we went downstairs for breakfast around 8. There were many different foods to choose from. I usually had eggs, bread, fruit, and coffee. My family enjoyed sitting near the window because we could see the garden. Breakfast was simple, but everything tasted fresh. This is easy English, but it creates a clear picture of the experience. Now imagine the hotel had a swimming pool. You can say, there was a beautiful outdoor pool behind the hotel. Maybe you used it every afternoon. You could say, after sightseeing in the morning, we usually relaxed by the pool for an hour. If there was a gym, you might say, the hotel also had a small gym, but I did not use it very much. Remember, you can talk about facilities even if you did not use all of them. Price is another useful topic when talking about hotels. Someone might ask, was it expensive? You could say, it was a little expensive, but I think it was worth the money. The phrase worth the money means you think the experience was good enough for the price you paid. You can also say, it was reasonably priced, which means the price was fair. Or you might say, it was affordable, especially because breakfast was included. Maybe your favorite hotel was not luxurious or expensive at all. You can say, it wasn't a luxury hotel, but it was clean, comfortable, and friendly. This is a very natural sentence. A hotel does not need 5 stars to become your favorite. Sometimes a small hotel becomes special because of the people, the atmosphere, or the memories you made there. Now, let's talk about problems. Even a great hotel may have one or two things you do not like. Maybe the room was a little small. Maybe the Wi-Fi was slow. Maybe the hotel was far from the city center. You can say, the only problem was that the Wi-Fi was sometimes slow, or everything was great, although the room was a little small. This makes your description more balanced and realistic. For example, I really enjoyed the hotel, but it was not perfect. Our room was comfortable, although the bathroom was quite small. The Wi-Fi also stopped working one evening. We called reception, and a staff member helped us quickly. The problem was fixed in about 20 minutes, so it did not affect our stay very much. This example gives you useful language for describing a small problem and how it was solved. Now let's learn how to recommend a hotel. You can say, I would definitely recommend this hotel. You can add, it is a great place for families, or I would recommend it to anyone visiting the city. Maybe it is better for couples or solo travelers. You could say, it is quiet and comfortable, so I think it is perfect for people who want to relax. Giving a recommendation is a useful skill when friends ask you for travel advice. Let's practice another conversation. Would you recommend the hotel? Yes, definitely. What did you like most about it? Probably the location and the staff. Was it expensive? It wasn't cheap, but I think it was worth the money. Was there anything you didn't like? The room was a little small, but it was very clean. Would you stay there again? Yes. If I visit that city again, I would be happy to stay there. You can also compare hotels. For example, I have stayed in several hotels, but this one was the most comfortable. You can say, it was smaller than other hotels I have visited, but the service was much better. Or, the room was not very luxurious, but the location was perfect. Words like bigger, smaller, cheaper, quieter, cleaner, and more comfortable are useful when comparing different places. When describing your favorite hotel, try to include both facts and feelings. Facts tell us that the hotel had a pool, a large room, or free breakfast. Feelings tell us that you felt relaxed, welcome, comfortable, or happy there. For example, the hotel was small, but I felt very welcome there. This kind of sentence explains why a place became special to you, and it makes your English sound more personal and natural. Now let's put everything together with a few complete examples. First, imagine your favorite hotel was near the beach. You can say, one of my favorite hotels was a small hotel in Spain. I stayed there with my family during a summer vacation. It was only a few minutes from the beach, and our room had a balcony with a beautiful sea view. The room was clean and comfortable, and breakfast was included. I especially liked the hotel because it was quiet and the staff made us feel very welcome. Here's another example for a city hotel. The best hotel I have stayed in was in the center of a busy city. The location was perfect because we could walk to many restaurants, shops, and interesting places. Our room was not very large, but it was modern and clean. The bed was comfortable and the Wi-Fi was fast. The hotel also had a small cafe downstairs where we had coffee every morning. This answer focuses on the things that are important during a city trip. Maybe your favorite hotel was simple and affordable. You could say, my favorite hotel was not expensive or luxurious. It was a small family-run hotel that I found during a trip with friends. The room was basic, but everything was clean. The owners were friendly and gave us useful advice about places to visit. I remember the hotel because the atmosphere felt warm and personal. This shows that an expensive hotel is not always the most memorable one. Now, let's talk about your favorite part of a hotel stay. Someone might ask, what did you like most about the hotel? You could say, my favorite thing was the view from my room. You might say, I loved the breakfast because there were many different things to eat. Another answer could be, The staff were the best part because they were always friendly and helpful. Choose one detail and explain why it mattered to you. Let's practice a full conversation. Have you ever stayed in a hotel you really loved? Yes, I stayed in a wonderful hotel during a trip to Portugal. What was it like? It was small, quiet, and very comfortable. What did you like most? Probably the location. It was very close to the beach. How was the service? Excellent. The staff were friendly and helped us whenever we had a question. Would you go back? Absolutely. I would definitely stay there again. Now, imagine you are recommending your favorite hotel to a friend. You could say, if you ever visit that city, I recommend staying there. The location is convenient, the rooms are comfortable, and the staff are very helpful. It is also reasonably priced compared with many hotels in the area. Just remember to book early because it can get busy during the summer. This kind of answer is useful when giving real travel advice in English. Now it is your turn. Complete these sentences with your own information. My favorite hotel is or was, it is located in, I stayed there when, the room was, the hotel had. The staff were. My favorite thing about the hotel was, the only problem was, and I would or would not stay there again, because. With these sentences, you can build a detailed answer without using difficult vocabulary. You can also practice asking hotel questions. Try saying, where was the hotel? What was your room like? Was breakfast included? Did the hotel have a swimming pool? What were the staff like? Was it expensive? Was there anything you didn't like? And would you recommend it? These questions can help you continue a conversation when someone else is talking about a hotel or a vacation. Remember that when you describe a hotel from a past trip, you will often use the past tense. You can say, the room was clean. The staff were friendly. We had breakfast every morning. I stayed there for 5 nights. When talking about your opinion now, you can say, I would recommend it, or I would love to stay there again. Practicing these simple patterns will help you talk about travel experiences more confidently. Before we finish, remember the basic structure. Start with the hotel and its location. Say when you stayed there and who you traveled with. Describe the room, facilities, food, and staff. Mention one thing you especially liked, and, if you want, one small problem. Finally, say whether you would recommend the hotel or stay there again. This structure can help you give a clear and interesting answer whenever someone asks about a hotel you enjoyed. Thank you for listening to Daily English Fluent Podcast. I am Jake, and I am very happy you practiced English with me today. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep using English to describe places and experiences from your life. You do not need advanced vocabulary to tell a good travel story. Use clear sentences, useful details, and your real feelings. Practice a little every day, and step by step, your English will become more natural and confident. See you in the next podcast.